today I'm going to talk you through how to get these really bright, cheerful summer nails. The base, I'm starting off with a white base. I've used Sally Hansen White On for that. Over the top of that I'm doing a gradient, and I'm using Rich and Famous China Glaze and Suns Up Top Down China Glaze. Two beautiful fresh colours to go for summer. Stamping, I'm using two Moyu colours, Moyu nails, a light blue and their light green to stamp on top of. Okay, other products I'm using, Messy Mansion's rectangular stamper, which is sort of a medium soft, our regular standard scraper, and Image Plate Lead Light A05, and I'm using this really bold image here. The other thing you'll see me use and talk about is the artist's masking fluid, just to make sure that my nails don't get, my skin doesn't get too covered in polish on the way through. Alrighty, let's start off with the white base. Okay, so I'm back. I've done my nails in white. I've also done the surrounds of my nails in artist's masking fluid, just because I don't want polish on the skin around my nails and my cuticles. So we're ready to move into doing the gradient. I use one of these little sponges. The easiest way I've found is just to get all the polish you want to use out and get the lids off, so that you're ready to go with it, so it doesn't dry. Okay, so I'm literally just going to paint a band of the pink and a band of the yellow. So I'm loading it up pretty well. I'm putting quite a lot of polish on there. The bad thing about gradients is they do tend to use up a bit of polish, but they look awesome, so we'll forgive them for their polish sucking ability. And just going straight next to that pink. I'm not blending it at all with the brush. I'm just putting it on separately and next to it. When I start applying it to the nail, it will blend at that point. Okay, so a lot of polish on there, probably actually a little bit too much. I'll just get it so it's not sitting on the surface so much. Ready to go. I'm going to do pink at the top of my nail and yellow at the bottom. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to get, you can see there's that line in the middle where the polishes meet. I'm just going to put that line up with the middle of my nail. And then I'm just literally moving it up a fraction, half a centimetre, down a fraction, half a centimetre. And that blends that right in the middle of my nail. I'm going to go through and do all four of this hand. What I tend to do is I do one hand, then I do the other hand, then I do my thumbs. So the trick with gradients is you want to make sure that before you put the second coat on, it's really dry. Otherwise what will happen is you'll kind of disturb the layers underneath. So that's my first coat. You can see how on the first finger here it's quite a bit stronger. It sort of fades out by the time we get to my pinky there. What I'll do is when I do my second coat, I'll go back the other way and I'll start at the pinky and work back this way. Alright, I'm going to let those dry and then we'll come back and I'll show you the second coat going on. Okay, so these are dry and we're ready for our second coat. I haven't bothered cleaning this between this round of polishing. I don't need to. It's still generally fairly, even though the polish on my nails is dry, there's enough bulk of polish in this sponge that my sponge hasn't dried off. So all I'm going to do is paint over again those blocks of colour. And again, I'm putting quite a lot of load of polish on. And the pink on. Because you've got to think it's got to do 4 nails, so you do need to put a fair bit on. Okay, so we're reloaded. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to start with my little finger, and this time what I'm going to do is, you can see the demarcation between the two colours very clearly. I'm just going to blur that out a little bit more. So what I'll do is, again, I'll start, helps if I hand it the right way around, I'll start in the middle and I'll just take it a little bit more up and a little bit more down. So you can see how that's actually blended a bit more now. And I'll go through and do all the nails like that, just a little bit more up and a little bit more down, just to get that blending to happen. You can see how that's a lot more blended. And the pinks come up a whole lot more, and you've got sort of more orange mixed in the middle. So I'm just going to work my way through, just making sure I cover everything up, get all the white covered up. And last one, my pointer finger. Okay, so that's a gradient done, and that's a lot stronger now because I put the 2 coats on. Also, when you're using these bright colours, it's always good to put down a couple of coats of white underneath, otherwise they can lose a little bit of their vibrancy. Okay, so I'm going to wait for these to dry and then we'll stamp on top of them. I'm not going to remove this, the edges where I've done the masking tape, masking paint. I'm not going to take those off until I've finished everything. It just makes cleanup a whole lot easier. You're not having to clean up the stamping polish off your fingers either. So that'll stay on until I'm pretty much finished my manicure. Alrighty, let's let these dry and come back to do some stamping. Okay, so now onto the stamping. I'm going to use this pattern here off Leadlight 05. This is a fairly bold pattern. I do want a fairly bold pattern that's going to show up really nicely over my nails. So all I'm going to do is paint a little bit of blue and a little bit of green, just right next to each other. I'm going to blend those together to get a gradient. Just doing some blending with the scraper. The more times you go over it, the cleaner that gradient's going to be. Okay, so that's my gradient done. Now all I've got to do is pick it up and get it onto my nails. So same as anything, straight down, straight up. There it is on the stamper. Onto my finger, straight down, straight up. There we go. So there's some nice summer colours on my finger. Alrighty, I'm going to go and do the rest and I'll be back just to show you how to finish up and how to clean up. Okay, so I'm back. I've done all my stamping. I also put on 1 coat of top coat just to get the idea of how it's going to look, and they're pretty bright. Okay, so all I'm going to do now is peel off this masking fluid that I put around my finger. Generally pretty easy to remove, so you just start at one edge and off it comes. So I still have a little bit of cleanup to do, but certainly nothing like what I would have had without the masking fluid. So it's really a nice little trick. Now the only thing to be careful of is that you can see here masking fluid is lifted, but I've got, because I've done a gradient, I've got that much polish. I've got all these little polished bits sticking up, so just be careful that you don't end up pushing those little fragments back onto your nail and wrecking your manicure. I tend to only remove this masking fluid once my nails are completely dry, because I just don't want little bits falling back up into my nail like that bit might if it was wet still. Okay, but still, you know, it's definitely easier. It's definitely easier. I'd rather be picking bits off like this than trying to scrub them off my skin. So I'll go through and 1 more to go and we'll get all that off and then I'll clean it up and we'll do some final photos. Alrighty, thanks for watching.